Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Black Soccer Membership Association podcast. I have a special guest today, Ashton Baptiste. Several of you, well, a lot of you have heard from him before. We did a podcast recently, but I wanted to bring him on today, just kind of like in an impromptu situation, to talk about the game yesterday. I don't know how many of you all saw the U.S. play the Trinidad and Tobago national team. This was a friendly. The U.S. had actually been in camp since January 9th, and they had some games before. I think they played El Salvador, and I believe they played another team. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the TNT national team, this is actually their first game in about 13, 14 months, and this was the very first game for head coach Terry Fennick. So I just kind of wanted just to talk about the game and just get Ashton's point of view and see what I guess can be done moving forward. So Ashton, thanks for taking the time out to talk to us. And how's everything going?
Everything is going fine. Thank you for the invite. Really appreciate it. Yeah, just being from Orlando and living in Orlando, you know what I mean? It was a kind of hard pill to swallow last night, but as we spoke before, not surprising.
Hmm.
Uh, working working with youths in America for several years and working with development and sending kids to college, and now working with a UPSL organization. So I've seen the full spectrum of importance of development and importance of having a strategic plan going into games, tournaments, and things like that. Um, you, as everyone else who is involved with soccer in the United States, know they have a very, very detailed and organized youth system in America. So when you're talking about a 21-year-old, that 21-year-old, as simple as it might sound, already had or been involved in some kind of formal training structure where they have to have their practice kit at every practice on. They have to be at games by a certain time. Um, so, as nonchalant that might seem, that's all preparation for the next level. And then within the youth system, you have different levels of competition. Again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, speaking to you and everyone else who might be listening to this podcast, excuse me, who works in some type of uh, youth system in their state. They know that four, two division, FPL, MPL, ECNL, now MLS next. So there's several tiers and levels of youth soccer as far as development, and even high school. High school soccer is becoming much better as far as the talent pool, and more kids are playing club. It's not just a 3-month high school season, then they go play basketball. You still have that in some states and in some high schools, but the top high schools in the different states, when you look at the high school, it's a club coach or a coach with some kind of credentials coaching them. And a lot of the players are playing clubs somewhere around that high school. It might be one club, it might be two, three different clubs, but they're getting that experience to bring to their high school. You understand? So when you're looking at a 21-year-old, and like my son, he's 12. He's been playing organized youth soccer since he was 5. So my son is sitting there analyzing the game and asking me, Dad, why is this happening? Dad, why is this going on? Dad, why is and it's like, what can I tell him? You know what I
It's
mean?
tough to tell them anything because we knew this kind of going into the game, and for our audience, who didn't get a chance to watch the game, the U.S. Beat Trinidad and Tobago 7-0. This was the highest score against a TNT national team for the U.S. in history. Prior, they had defeated them in the Gold Cup back in 2019, but it was pretty much a game, men against boys. And I think the U.S. could have, easily got to 10 goals, 10, 11 goals easily on the national team, for TNT. So, Ashton, I mean, I know you just mentioned that you got to explain this to your son. Your son, you told me, actually went to the game as well. I mean, are there any takeaways from it that, you see the TNTFA could improve?
It's just like, I don't want to sound repeating myself, and just for the credit of Trinidad and Tobago, one
Hmm.
of the goals was offsides. So
Right. Hmm.
in all actuality, it was six. But
Hmm.
um, so as a coach, and other coaches know, in friendlies, you try things, you work on different things, and um, my question to Coach Fennick is, if you came on interviews and stated to everyone that you knew that the team didn't have enough time to prepare, you knew that the team wasn't fit, you knew that it was the first time that some of these boys were going to be meeting and playing with each other, you knew what the US was bringing to the table. I would like to ask Mr. Venning, why did you come out there and play a 4-3-3 high press where you were pressing all the way up
Hmm.
to the 18-yard box of the United States?
Hmm.
You can press with a different line of concentration. You don't have to press that far up the field.
Right.
Then on one of the goals, the ball was going into the back of the net, and four of your midfielders was now jogging back. This is within the first 5 minutes. The first 10 minutes of the game, I saw the whole team tired. Like, they would have had no problem if he would have just took all 10 of them off the field and put a brand new 10 on the field. I don't think any one of those players would have complained because they were that tired. And on that pitch, I know that pitch.
Right.
You
Yep.
know,
I
that pitch
mean,
is a
mhm.
full size pitch. It's not like, and maybe it's almost, no, no. That's a
You've been to
legal
several
full
games
size
at that
pitch.
stadium before, right? So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I
mhm.
coached at that
You coached in
stadium
the
before.
club. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
doing clinics and camps at that stadium before. So I know that pitch like it's my home pitch. I know that pitch like it's the Savannah. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So
Very cool.
when I saw them, I'm like, they have no idea, you know, what they're gonna expose them space in the midfield. 3 high press, and you have 40 yards of open space in the midfield. How many times did America hit the ball out to the wing on a change of point of attack, and there was no adjustment
Hmm.
for that and to that, where the American players are just like, hit it over the top, I'll get it.
Yeah. They were just going right behind their backs. I mean, that
Yeah,
left back was just getting killed, from the
yeah.
beginning to the end of the game. Yeah.
And again,
So they switched them on.
I'm
Yeah.
not blaming any of the players. The players went out there as players and played the best they could in the situation.
Hmm.
But you have to make, or you have to put together some type of system that advantageous to the players in the situation.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know. I'm not here to say I'm the best coach. I have the answers, but why not a 4-5-1 or
Mm-hmm.
4-2-3-1?
Hmm. Right.
Something on a more defensive side, protecting your middle, things like that. Avoiding the long ball, playing more compact. Okay,
Hmm.
we were getting killed on the wings. The wingers was just out running and running behind the back of our wing backs and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, because it seemed like every time, like the center back from the TNTFA got the ball and he wanted to try to push forward, that just opened up a huge gap. And you
Yeah,
just saw the U.S. players, if it was Paul Areola, down the right wing, he was just getting behind that left back consistently. Jonathan Lewis, same thing. These guys are just tearing down the flanks and just really, really, really taking advantage of, I guess, the lack of fitness, the lack of preparation, the lack of discipline, at least from the back four. I mean, that was just something that was really, really, really just easy and very, very simple for them to break down. I mean, prior to this camp, so I know they left Trinidad and Tobago on Thursday, and then it took them about like 10 hours or so to get to Orlando. They went through Guyana, they went up to Orlando, and then they took a sorry, not to Orlando. I think they went to Miami, and then they took a bus from Miami to Orlando. Just a pretty long process. I mean, do you think that has something to do with the game preparation or what we saw last night? Just travel.
Um, I want, well, travel, yeah. I mean, 10 hours to come from Trinidad, and you have direct flights flying into Orlando. I don't know the logistics. I don't know the manager and how all that was arranged, but you know, um, there's regular people who fly direct,
Right, from
from Orlando
Trinidad.
to Trinidad.
Right.
So you're a national team. I shouldn't see why you should have an issue, but whatever the issue was. But again, why, when you flew from Guyana, why didn't you fly into Orlando? Again, there's flights going from Trinidad to Guyana to Orlando. Why did you go to Miami? Why did you have to get on a bus? There's a whole lot of whys,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But one of the things which I found strange from hearing um, some reports from Trinidad is, how come nobody in Trinidad asked about the uniforms?
Hmm. I mean, where did that come from? I mean, that caught everybody off guard. I mean, I had a lady from Jamaica who follows the JFF, and she was posting on her Facebook. She was like 1-0 already after 2 minutes, and then she said, "Well, there's another goal gets scored within the next 5 minutes. I'm turning off." But she said something about the uniform. She said, "Well, they look good. The uniforms look good," but it was sarcasm, and she kind of laughed
Yeah,
it off. Where the hell did those uniforms come from, man?
I had I had Guyanese people texting me, Jamaicans. I had so many people from different islands who was invested in the game because again, it's an island team playing against the US. And when islands play against the US, all the other islands usually come together and
Correct.
support that island.
Right.
So yeah, my phone was blowing up with texts from players from, again, I'm a coach here. I live here in Orlando. So, when people say, well, who's that guy talking this? Yeah, but when a performance was put on like that, and when we weren't even in our colors and things like that, and they leave, I still live here. I still have to coach. I will still get the questions. I still have my players that, well, coach, how come you tell us to be professional and look at your own country? How
Right.
come you always tell us to be in uniform, look at your country? how and are the questions fair to me? No, but that's their point of reference. I'm Trinidadian, born and raised in Trinidad, and I'm a coach, and they know me, and they know that about me, and I'm always bragging about my country. So when I speak on these podcasts, there are some Trinis who will take what I'm saying negative. No, it's
Hmm.
because of my love for Trinidad. That if you're doing well, it's like a parent. If a kid is doing bad, the parent is not going to praise the kid and say you're doing well.
Right. Right. That's not going to help the
You
kid.
get some
Right.
licks in your backside and you get yelled at and whatever.
Right.
Two cuff in the back of your head, right? So
Right.
why? Because I'm from Trinidad, I should sit here and watch nonsense and be like, oh yeah, 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 that was good. Oh yeah, that was great. Oh yeah, this player did this and this player did that. I mean, no. If it
Hmm.
if it's poor, it's poor.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Point blank. Period. You
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So I mean, you saw how how the U.S. went off in the sports commentators when Trinidad beat them 2-1 in Trinidad that time. I mean,
Yeah.
dude looked like he was getting ready to break the desk. What's his name? His name slips me right at the moment.
Bruce Arena.
He no played for the U.S. national team. He was the commentator that game.
Oh, the commentator that game.
Yeah,
I can't
he
remember.
almost broke the desk. He was so upset. Like for a
Really?
minute there, he forgot he was the commentator, and, and he was on film. He just lost
Uh-huh.
it.
Huh.
Like saying that U.S. got to do better. I mean, he put down Trinidad, but he was just
That
referring
was
to,
Taylor Twellman. I think is it Taylor Twellman or Alexi Lalas? Probably.
yes, thank you, yes, 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 thank you, forgive
Okay.
me, yes, forgive me, yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, it and he went off on the U.S. and that was a ex-U.S. national player
Hmm.
because no, they didn't play right, and they went in with a very nonchalant attitude. They were clowning in the stadium and giving people each other piggyback rides across and talking about they have to
Across the
cross the
water
river,
on the field.
yeah, and
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
yeah. So
Hmm.
they didn't go into and they paid the price, and that's what he talked about: keeping it professional, keeping it serious. And if you want to clown and brag after the game, but you don't do that before a game, and
Hmm.
and he touched on the same points, and it's the same points that some of us here of Trinidad descent, Trinidad uh, uh, parentage, and everything else like yourself. This is what we're touching on. We have to do better. We have to do better. We cannot continue down this road. We cannot continue painting the room with the same paint and the same brush and keep saying, "Oh, we want to invoke change." You will not invoke any change if you keep doing the same thing.
Right. I mean, are they even talking about that? Like invoking change? Like I've read the media outlets. I've read CN, CNC3, the television network, like when they write reports on the games or the Guardian, Wired 868. I mean, I read all that, but I'm still yet to hear anybody actually presenting any type of change to the Federation. I mean, is that something that they're even talking
No,
about, or are they just
but
happy to just kind of be where they're at?
this is the problem, Justin.
Hmm.
There's a lot of talk behind the scenes. There's a lot of talk behind the scenes, but nobody has the balls, I'll use that word, has the balls to step up. And I challenge all these grassroots coaches in Trinidad to step up and say something, not talk to each other, not talk behind the scenes, but actually step up and put themselves on blast and say, this is nonsense. We know better and we can do better and we need to do better. And not just sit there and wait your turn at the helm to try to invoke change. And I think that's what's going on in Trinidad. There's too many Trinidadian coaches that are waiting their turn. Oh, I'm waiting until I get in to do this. I'm waiting. No, speak on it now.
Right. Speak and
Speak on
act
it
on it
now.
now.
And that,
Right.
yeah,
Hmm.
and that's why fingers get pointed. You're speaking on it. You know why? Because we're not going to get hired by TTFA.
Hmm.
And a lot of us know that. And some of us don't really care if we get hired by TTFA or not
Especially
because,
the situation that they're in. Like, I
yeah,
mean, who wants
we
to
can
be a
go
part
down
of
there.
that dilemma? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we can go down there and invoke change. And some of us from here, we are helping. Go to the kids, start interviewing some of these kids and ask them who helped them get their scholarship in college.
Hmm.
That's what Wire needs to do.
Hmm.
That's what some of these social medias need to do. Go to the kids and
Hmm.
ask them who is really helping them,
Hmm.
you know, to get out of Trinidad, to get scholarships, to get all these things. Some of the kids that are playing USL and stuff like that, who helped them? Where did the
Right.
help come from? You know, so they have to just stop the nonsense and just start working as a collective to help the kids and put the kids first. I mean, USA, they put a thing, a mission statement a couple of years ago, player first.
Yeah.
That was the initiative, player
Oh,
first.
right. And I mean, we have U.S. Club Soccer. U.S. Club Soccer has their own players first program that they run,
Right,
and that's
right.
focused on, on development. And if you look at the United States, I mean, this is decades in the making. They knew that the sport wasn't big here, back in the 80s, right? But then things started shifting in the 90s and in the 2000s. And then they put together the developmental academy. Of course, that's questionable. A lot of people look at it as, okay, well, it's just another pay to play model. It's only like the rich kids that can afford it, but it's still some type of system. And now they're starting
Yeah.
to see the benefits. Now you're starting to see guys who are with Juventus, Weston McKinney, or Pulisic at
Valencia,
Chelsea,
yeah,
players at Valencia, players at Barcelona,
Barcelona,
desk, right?
Bayern
So
Munich, Bayern
Bayern
Munich.
Munich, they've got players there as well because they put a system in place years ago to say, hey, we understand that soccer is a business. And I'll never forget, like, going to the conventions and being an agent. Every time I would see the U.S. head coach, Greg Berhalter, he's always professional. Like, like he's an organized guy and everything, and he knows how to motivate players. But off the field, you see him always professional. He's got his suit on and he's got his entourage behind him, and they mean business. These guys mean
Yeah,
business. Yes, we know they will probably never beat a Spain or Argentina or Brazil, but they mean business and they're going to do the best that they can with what they have. I mean, the Caribbean has so much talent.
exactly.
They've got so much talent, but the fact of the unprofessionalism, the fact that these guys don't mean business, they don't understand what they're losing. Like, they're losing millions and millions and millions of dollars because of the failure to develop players on the islands and then be able to send those players overseas to Europe and get yourself a transfer fee, or help those players get paid overseas and give them that experience that the US players are now getting here. So they
Exactly.
continue to just leave millions of dollars on the table. They don't know what they have. And I mean, it is just so frustrating seeing that there is so much information out there for them to follow and to structure, but they just fail to do it because you got the wrong people in place,
Yeah.
so.
And the internet provides you with that. So let's say they don't want to listen or hear from a Justin Reed. You
Mhm.
can go online and get information and implement that information, especially when the information was already proven. My thing in life has always been, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
If somebody did something already and it works, why not just patent that? Why not patent that? Why are you gonna, sometimes you have to tweak it. Um, Even as a coach, and learning and watching stuff that other coaches do, drills and different things that other coaches do, I'll be like, oh wow, yeah, I like that. You know what I mean? But for my team, I'm gonna have to tweak it a little. But it's sharing of information, and that makes it possible and make things go wrong. You know, I don't know
To me, I think that there needs to be some
to
type of
be done. You
standard,
know what I mean?
right?
And
No, like I was gonna say, like someone has to hold the TTFA and the JFF and all these Caribbean nations accountable. As the game was going on, I looked on Facebook and I saw this guy. I think he's probably a follower of a Central, American Federation, but he made a great comment, and it's something that I've said before, and it was sarcastic. He said something to the extent of, "Oh, it's so great that the United States is beating the TNTFA, easily. That's really going to help the U.S., Canada, and Mexico when they play against Europe." It was sarcastic, very sarcastic comment,
yeah,
but I understood what he was saying. The
me
Caribbean
too.
is
Me
the
too.
weak link. They are the weak link in CONCACAF, and they've been weak for so long. I mean, do you think that CONCACAF should like hold them accountable in terms of like, you have to develop a player development structure within the next 6 months, and we have to see where you are. You got to meet measurables. I mean, there just seems to be no accountability from CONCACAF
No, you're right.
in order to improve the region. Or is that even CONCACAF's job? I don't even think that's CONCACAF's job, but somebody's got to hold these federations accountable who oversee them.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought up that point. So let's bring it back to Trinidad for a second.
Mhm.
Who is holding the head coach accountable right now?
I'm guessing maybe the technical director, Dion, Dion
And who's the
Lafayette,
technical?
Dion Lafayette.
Right, I know the name, and we know
Mhm.
that's his title. Right, I know that his name, and I know his title. I don't know him personally, but I
Mhm.
have a good friend that knows him personally.
Mhm.
But besides all that, knowing him personally, where has he been all this time?
Yeah. I mean, I'll
That's
see
what I'm
him
saying.
on Facebook from time to time again, but he's just really putting out Bible verses on Facebook. I mean, you really don't really hear anything in terms of like, and that's all well and good. I mean, I'm not against religion by any means. I mean, that's his faith, that's what he believes in. But you don't hear from him in the media. You don't. The guy is like it's like a mouse. You don't hear from him. He's
He's a
silent.
ghost. He's a
Yeah,
ghost.
yeah, yeah. So
If your job is technical director and there's only one team representing the country right now, there's no under 15s, there's one team.
mhm.
Why aren't you around that team? Why aren't you part of the daily operations and what's going on with the team. And, you know, why aren't you there right next to Fennec with interviews? And it just, like I said, it looks like a youth club in America, and not a very good one. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you with youth clubs, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and they have a technical, youth clubs have technical program directors, technical directors, DOCs,
Mm-hmm.
so forth and so on. They have a chain of command. And their youth clubs, as a coach, if you don't follow curriculum and you don't do certain things, your DOC will come down on you. And if you keep doing it, you're gone, because the technical director is coming down on the DOCs. Hey, what's going on here with this team? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so you have a curriculum and you have a certain responsibility within the structure of the program.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I'm not seeing it, and I haven't seen it for a long time with TTFA. And
No,
again, this is not me bad talking or whatever. It's just facts. And before people try to attack me, prove me wrong. Show me.
I don't think they
Prove me
can.
wrong.
I don't think they can prove anybody wrong. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is
You
a
know.
100% factual. You know, I mean, kind of going back to the chain of command. I mean, yes, the technical director, he's supposed to hold that head coach accountable. You know, show us your report. You know, at the end of the game, you know, what did you come up with? And he's got to be able to meet milestones. I mean, it seems like their goal is
Hmm.
to defeat Dominica, and I think they play like Saint Vincent and the Grenadines coming up, and those are not going to be easy games. I hope they're not going to go in thinking that they are big bad, you
None
know,
of these.
Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Those are not going to be easy games, because I've
No.
seen Dominica evolve, you know, over the last 4 or 5 years by just going to the CONCACAF qualifiers for the under 20s in Bradenton. I mean, I've sat down and I've spoke with the coach. The coach is actually from Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Hmm.
And he's got those guys playing well, you know. So I don't see Trinidad and Tobago going to Dominica and just kind of walking over, or St. Vincent, and you know, and the Grenadines. Those are good Caribbean nations right now, you know. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, Ashton. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the TTFA has just got man, it's very pathetic. It's I mean, I, I just don't know where to go from here, man. You know, it's
I
sad
I'm
to
with you.
watch. I mean, they're the weak
Uh,
link.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Justin. It's just like I think everything just has to be scrapped and start off with a youth system and build all the way back up to a national program
Hmm.
with teaching the 7, 8, 9 year olds how to be professional, how to look uniform, how to conduct themselves in a professional manner, um, how to understand systems of play, how to understand principles of the game, principles of defense, principles of offense, you know, learning um, 4-3-3, 4-4-2, you know. And so when you meet a coach and a coach says, hey, in this 4-3-3, I want you as a midfielder to do this, you understand. Because somewhere along your development, you have learned to do that. It's just like school. You get a job. Somewhere along your schooling, you learn how to count. So your job says you have to count. It might not be an accounting job, but you might have to do some addition, subtraction. During your school education, you learn how to count. You see what I'm saying? You learn how to write a proper memo, you know, because you had some type of writing class. You have to get up, you reach in a position of management, you have to get up and speak in front of your group or whatever. You know, you had in college, I had, you know, speech. public speaking and speech class and things like that, how to write a speech. And so you use it. You don't know when or if you're going to use your education, but your education is there for you to tap into when you need to. Where's the education of these young players in Trinidad? Where's the training and development of these young players? So when you reach the national level, I don't care if you play together or not, you can say, hey, Justin, I need you to play right mid. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. Overlap, you know. But again, these are things you should know if you reach that level.
Yeah. I mean,
So yeah, chemistry and all this is important, but we see it all the time in professional. A player would leave a team, go to another club in another country, and 3 days later they're on the field playing with that team like they've been there all season.
hmm.
You know what I mean? When you reach a certain level, it's like it's it's just knowing the tactics your head coach wants, and then you just do it. Now, if you don't have the experience, the knowledge, the know-how to do that, then maybe you're not ready for that level as yet. I'm just saying, maybe you're
But,
not ready for that level as yet.
but
So,
that goes back to structure. You know, the players are there. I think the players want to learn, but it's the
oh yeah,
structure.
I
It's
can see
it's
that.
it's
Yeah.
it's the base. You know, that's where it has to start. And if they don't focus on creating that player developmental structure, that coaching education structure, um, where coaches actually can move up the ladder, and they've got a lot of courses that's available for coaches to learn, and you've got people who are actually able to teach those courses, not just one man always teaching everything, like what sometimes tends to happen with the TTFA, and he teaches on his own time. Then you're just going to continue to have the results that we saw yesterday. It's not a matter of it being 6-0 due to the offsides, or maybe 7-0, or potentially could have been 11-0. It's what we saw on that field is a representation of that federation and the way things have been for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, going through all the courses I've taken, I've had many instructors, you know, and every instructor brings a different part um, of themselves to you. And it's like making a nice pot, making a nice cook. You have to put all these different seasoning. One season alone is going to make the pot taste some kind of way.
Yep.
But when you blend all the different seasonings together, the pot tastes really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't have instructors like um, Tony DeChico, um, who's passed away, Bob Gansler, who was the coach lost in the Oval in 1989. You know, these were some of my instructors, and what they brought to the table. Shellis Hyman, you know, what they brought to the table was invaluable. I mean, a guy that one of my instructors is still good friends with today. You know, Steve Burgess of Palm Beach Predators. I mean, you know, these guys brought a lot. And is Steve a UEFA coach? No, but he's a high level coach within himself, and just the knowledge of the different levels of my development as a coach and learning. You know, the guy's amazing, and you know, very respectable and very well respected by a lot of coaches that he has instructed over the years. You know, both male and female coaches. So um, again, here we talk about development, development as a coach, which you just mentioned, and development as players. You know, you need both. You need both. And I say this with the most humility, you know, that's what needs to happen. And if it doesn't, you're dead in the water. Germany recognized it. Brazil woke up and recognized it. America recognized it years ago, like you said, and they started putting stuff in place and investing money and investing time. And, you know, again, going back to youth clubs, there's youth clubs that if you're a coach there and you don't have certain licensing, you're not going to make certain X amount of dollars. So the push is from the top down, and just And sorry about all the noise coming through. It's people still texting me about the game and
No, that's fine.
their own analysis of the game.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it you know, it has to be looked upon like school, like school. You have primary school, you get ready for common entrance, you pass common entrance, you go to school, you get ready for CXCs, A level, O levels. It has to have that structure. And again, prove me wrong. Everybody wants to point their finger and say, shame on you, how dare you. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. Right. Right. And they
Show me the
can't.
structure.
Right.
Name me
They can't.
one youth league in Trinidad.
There's none. There's none.
You
I
know,
mean, they can't show you
name
anything. Right. They
name me
can't show you
one
anything.
time where, yeah, yeah, where I mean, and it's time for the Ministry of Education, it's time for the government, it's time for the TTFA to all sit down and said, what are we doing for the youths in Trinidad? And people worry about, the Zessas and all the crime, but what's the kids to do? What do you have to offer them? What are you giving them? Where are the fields? You've been to Orlando. I've been to New York. You have fields. Atlanta has the most set of fields
Yeah.
for one city.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
can go to any county
have
outside of Atlanta. You go to Cobb, Gwinnett, any of those counties, and it just fields galore. Yeah.
fields galore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have the Savannah just
Hmm.
sitting there. Why isn't that chopped up into for the older kids and start pointing these out? Okay, if you Carenage, if you dig a Martini, here's your field, da, 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 da. And monitoring that stuff, and seeing what's down in South, same thing. You have all these stadiums. You have over 7 stadiums in Trinidad that's dilapidated and falling apart. Light bulbs missing, and
Yep.
light bulbs are out and stuff like that. And maintain these facilities, get kids in there, get coaches in there, have a database, start tracking and following some of these players and what's going on. And I mean, the process is simple.
It
The
is.
process is very simple.
It's very simple.
It's not
So
that difficult.
no, it's not. So Ashton, we got to end here, but I want to thank you for coming on to the show. And I think this is something that we can do every time, maybe after T and TFA game is played. I would love to get your breakdown and your understanding. But I think one takeaway from the game yesterday is that the T and TFA has got a long way to go, man. Long way to go. I predict 50
Unfortunately,
to 100 years. We're not even going to live to see it out if anything does change, but unfortunately, yes, they are very, very, very far behind. So Ashton, thanks again for coming on to the show, and I'll have to get you back on again. All right.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for the invite.
No
Have a
problem
blessed
at
day,
all.
man.
Yep,
Be
you
safe.
too. All right, you too.
Okay.
Take care.